Hey guys, this video is about how to actually win those scholarships that you found so that you can have even more money for college, and that means that you can graduate debt-free and have financial freedom and conquer the world without the shackles of those student loan debts. Let's get started. Hey guys, this is Thomas Knapp with Financial Empowerment, and this video is about how to actually win the scholarships. Before we get into all the details about how to win the scholarships, there's a few things that we need to touch on. Number one is make sure that you actually qualify for the scholarships that you are applying for. It would be a shame to take all the time and energy to write a killer essay, collect letters of recommendation, do all the stuff that you need to do, filling out the application, and then get to the end and realize, oh, I don't even qualify for this. Then you're definitely not going to win, and you wasted all that time. Please don't waste your time applying for scholarships that you don't qualify. And the second point is, this video primarily focuses on winning private scholarships, not institutional ones, though the techniques that we utilize here can be applied to actually applying to college itself, and the college applications are what are typically used for institutional scholarship awards. The other thing to keep in mind is merit-based versus needs-based. A merit-based scholarship is primarily focusing on your grades, your essay, maybe your class rank, things along those lines that basically talks about your character and abilities and who you are, and it doesn't matter about any financial situation. They don't care about it at all. Now, a needs-based scholarship has financial thresholds, but there's still a merit-based component because the thresholds of the needs-based just kind of limit who can apply, but they still have to decide who wins. So don't think that if it's not a merit-based, if it's a needs-based scholarship, that all the merit doesn't matter, but just understand that there is a difference between a merit-based and a needs-based. The merit-based without reference to income are typically going to have a lot more people that can apply and that will apply, whereas there's going to be less people that can qualify for the needs-based ones, so the pool's going to be a little bit less, but it doesn't mean that it's any less competitive. So take all of this stuff that we're going to put in this video, take it into account when competing for those competitions and for those scholarships. So now on to what you need to do to win this free money that is a scholarship. The first thing that you need to do is, shocker, apply. All right, apply. Now, if you miss the deadline, you're kind of out of luck. It is what it is. They set deadlines for a reason, and if you can't even meet a deadline that they set, then they're not going to want to award you their money. We're going to give it to somebody else. Don't miss deadlines. However, there is going to be a priority in which you're going to want to apply for scholarships. Now, what that priority is, you're going to have to kind of decide for yourself, but know that there might be 10 scholarships that are all due in October. Then you're going to want to pick the order at which you apply for those 10 scholarships. That can be different for different people. Typically, a lower scholarship dollar amount might initially sound like, well, I probably want to put that last and I want to apply for the highest dollar amounts first. You can choose that way to organize it, that's fine. But also know that the lower dollar amount scholarships, less people typically apply for them anyway, so you might actually want to put those first, get those knocked out. You have a higher percentage chance, a higher probability of winning the lower dollar amount scholarships than the higher dollar amount scholarships because less people apply. Whatever criteria you use, but you're going to want to sit down, figure out when scholarships are due, and then figure out what's the priority order that you want to apply for them in. That way, if you do run out of time, you applied for the ones that are the most important to you and you didn't get to the ones that you couldn't. But ideally, you will apply for all of them. Don't miss any of the deadlines and get all the applications in. That's obviously going to be your most likely way to win the most money. So apply. Don't miss the deadline. If you've ever missed a scholarship deadline, give this video a thumbs up and say never again in the comments. The other thing that you're going to typically need for not every scholarship, but a lot of scholarships require some letter of recommendation. So you're going to want to have letters of recommendation with you and available and already done ahead of time. I do have an email template for which you can email the people that you want to get a letters of recommendation from. That's going to be in my scholarship prep bundle that I'm going to have linked in the description. So check that out if you want to get some free information for how to get a letter of recommendation. What's the email? What should you say? How should you say it? What to include, what not to include. The reason also I say email template is because these people are busy. So if you ask them in person when they're busy, they may say yes, but then give you a bad recommendation. Not bad, but it won't be as good as it could be because they really wanted to say no. Or they'll tell you no and it gets really awkward. Do it in an email. It just makes it a little bit easier. It doesn't put so much pressure in the moment on the person that you're asking. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that you are giving them plenty of time to fill out the letter of recommendation. So if the scholarship's due tomorrow, it's kind of already too late. You really need to have asked already. Now, obviously, if there's a scholarship due tomorrow and you need a letter of recommendation, go and beg somebody to write one for you if you need it for the application. recommendation. But try not to put yourself in that situation. Try to ask weeks or even months ahead of time and just have them write you generic letters of recommendations, not to any particular scholarship, but just to like, dear scholarship committee. Most scholarships, you can just kind of have a generic letter of recommendation. I would recommend finding teachers that really connect with you and finding coaches. You can also talk to pastors, your boss at work, if you're on good terms with your boss. Obviously, if your boss hates you, don't go to them. You want to find the people that are going to write glowing recommendations that really highlight your abilities and who you are. Once you find your list of people, you can go to them, you can send them an email with my template and basically just fill in the blanks, but you're going to want to ask them when they write it to give you more than one copy. I would recommend having them print out 10 copies and sign all 10 copies. Some scholarships don't require an original copy with a signature on them, but some do. So if you only get one copy, you're going to have to go back to them and ask them to sign another copy later. But if they just signed like 10 of them all at once, then it's good, it's done. Any scholarship that doesn't require the original, just send in a copy and then keep your copies of the originals for the scholarships that do require that. And some scholarships are online applications now, so sometimes the letters end up getting sent directly from the person writing the recommendation directly to the scholarship. And often that's how it works when you're applying for colleges too. They are going to want to keep an electronic file, document saved letter, so that if there's another application, you can go and ask them if they can send them the link where they need to send it in. But they'll already have written it. It's already done, so it's not nearly as inconvenient as if you're asking them to write one and then send it in next week. But try to make it as easy as possible for the recommenders, because they're busy and they've got probably a ton of other people asking them to write the letters of recommendation for them too. So think about that. And because you're thinking about the fact that you are asking somebody else to do something for you that could potentially land you thousands of dollars to pay for college and help set you off on the right foot for the rest of your life, you might want to give them a little gift or at least write them a thank you note. If you're potentially going to win a $1,000 scholarship, you can give them like a $10 gift card to Starbucks or something. And certainly you can take the time to just write a thank you note. And the reason that I recommend getting a bunch of letters of recommendation from a bunch of people at the beginning, even though any given scholarship may only require one or maybe two, is because different scholarships could benefit from letters of recommendation from different people. What do I mean by that? If you're applying for a scholarship from a religious organization or maybe your church itself, having a letter of recommendation from your pastor is going to help more than, say, your boss at your part-time job. Now, if you're applying for something from a foundation for a particular business, maybe your boss would be the best option. If you're applying for something from your school, a $500 scholarship from your school, having a letter of recommendation from a teacher, maybe even a teacher of a specific subject, could be beneficial. So early, identify who do you want to write your letters, have them send you 10 copies signed, and then when you get them, when you actually apply for scholarships, find the ones that apply to the scholarship the best. That's my recommendation for recommendations. And go ahead and subscribe so that we don't forget to be grateful to those people that help us succeed in life. And another thing that you want to do, this is kind of the third thing, it's called a high school resume. Essentially, you're going to write yourself a resume that basically chronicles everything you've been doing in high school. That includes extracurriculars, community service, classes that you did particularly well in. It's also going to include things like your work opportunities outside of school, if you work part-time or anything like that, any activities you do outside of school, even church involvement. Basically, you're trying to give a good picture of who you are from a moral, from a character standpoint. You're trying to put your best foot forward and identify the best things about you. You're going to include this resume in the actual email to the recommender, because that way they're going to know the best things to include in the recommendation, because you're kind of jogging their memory. These people might know you, but if you say we're in somebody's class and you did this really awesome project about this really cool thing and you want them to include that in their letter of recommendation, then put that experience in your resume or at least in the email, and that will jog their memory. Oh yeah, I remember when you did that. That was awesome. Then they'll put it in the letter. If you don't jog their memory and help them to put the pieces together, they might forget what you think is the coolest thing about your experience with that person, and then they'll leave it out. The resume helps the recommender, but also sometimes helps you when it comes to writing your essays. If you have your resume in front of you, you don't forget all the cool things that you've done in your high school career or outside of school that you want to make sure that you put in there. Be that, volunteer opportunities, maybe you even started organizations, things like that. Maybe you even run your own sort of small business as a high schooler. People do that. You want to include all those things, and you might forget some of the cool details about your own life. It happens when you get stressed out with deadlines and stuff. So write yourself this high school resume. The template for that is also in the scholarship prep bundle linked in the description. So check that out. Get your scholarship prep bundle. That will help you with all these things for scholarships and college application stuff. So share this video with your friends so they don't forget to write their resume to help them win scholarships and essays too. And that brings us into our last point here, which is writing a killer essay. Regardless of the details of the essay and the particular prompt, you're going to want to tell a story, a compelling story, and a compelling story that starts with a good intro. Again, there's a whole document that helps writing killer essays. That's in the scholarship bundle as well, linked in the description, so you can check that out. But just know that when you're writing your scholarship essay, you have to tell a story because these people are reading maybe thousands of these essays. So how are you going to stand out? It's not going to be because you wrote a boring list of all the things you did in high school. They're going to read that all day in other people's essays. You're going to need to stand out and you're going to need to connect, but I don't want you to exaggerate. And I certainly don't want you to lie, all right? Now you can emphasize, all right? And you wanna be authentic, authentically you, but don't go too far where you're trying to paint a picture that's not accurate. Your integrity is worth more than money. And I can't stress that enough, all right? There was somebody who recommended you should put in every essay that you want to start a foundation and that you want to be able to give kids scholarships to, because that connects to the scholarship committee, because that's what they're doing. They have a foundation or they have a scholarship that they're offering. So if you say you want to do that too, you'll connect. And I'm like, dude, if you want to start a scholarship or a foundation, totally put that, because that's awesome. But don't just put that to try to connect to the scholarship committee, because you're compromising your character and your integrity and your reputation. And all of those things are not worth a scholarship. They are not worth money. Compromising your integrity, please hear me. Anything you do to compromise your integrity is not worth it. It's just a slippery slope. Don't start down that path. Please be authentic and be honest. Your integrity is more important than money. All right, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Don't lie to win a scholarship, please. Another thing that you wanna do is include in the essay stuff that isn't already included anywhere else in the application. Meaning, you've already talked about your GPA because they have your transcript likely. You've already talked about different things you may have done in high school because you've already included them in other places. The letters of recommendation might already talk about those. Don't repeat. You want to accentuate. You want to complement. You want to add to the overall application. So figure out what you've already told them and kind of leave that stuff out. Highlight new things about who you are. And along those lines, you really want to talk about stuff that matters to you, stuff that you're passionate about and that you care about. Now, the other thing is you do typically want to, if you have had some sort of hardship or some experience that you have overcome and grown through and you're a better person because of, you want to include that too. But I'm emphasizing the back end, not the front end. You don't want to tell a sad story that ends with being sad. If that's your situation, I feel for you. I get it, and that sucks. But realize that that's not the story to tell in a scholarship essay. So for instance, like if you had to go through a difficult divorce of your parents, first off, I'm sorry, because that sucks. I haven't gone through it myself, but I know people that have, and it sucks. But if you were able to overcome that and grow through that, how are you a better person now because you've grown through that? The experience was bad, but you came through, you fought through it. Now you're better on the back end. That's kind of what they want to hear, is how did you overcome? Maybe you had an injury. I tore my ACL in high school, so pretty much my athletic scholarships went out the window. But I was able to overcome and work through that experience. It's not the fact that you got hurt, it's the fact that you overcame and you worked through that experience. Talk about the positive. Once you've completed the essay, you want to put that essay in a folder on your computer, and you're going to want to save that because more than one scholarship is going to have an essay prompt that's similar. They're not all going to be similar, so don't just copy and paste your essay for all of them, but write one killer essay and file that and have that title. And then when you come across another scholarship that requires that same content, same area, pull that essay back out and then edit it from there. You've already got the bones written, you've already got the stories and the details in there, so now you're just filling in the blanks applicable specifically to the question that was asked. Always make sure you're answering the question that was asked, and sometimes they might have multiple parts. If you only answered one or two of the parts and there's 3 parts, you didn't answer the full question. That's not going to look good for you. Another great tip for helping when you're writing your essay, write positive things about yourself, because some people struggle with negative self-talk, the things that they think in their own minds about themselves. They don't actually have the best understanding of how other people see them. So you want to put positive things about yourself in these essays. An exercise you can do, write this down, write what are the 3 best things about me. You're gonna send that in a text message to 25 people that know you. And when you get these responses, 25 people might sound like a lot of people, but the truth is not all 25 people are gonna respond. But when you get your responses, you're gonna put them together, you're gonna categorize them because a lot of these responses, believe it or not, these responses of what other people think are the best things about you are gonna be similar among people. So you're gonna kind of see a theme of different categories that people see in you that make you great. You're gonna then use that information in your essay. Plus, the exercise is kind of a nice feel-good exercise. It makes you feel good about yourself because these are other people and what they think about you. So you might not even see these in yourself, but these are what other people see in you that make you great. Just like paying attention to qualifications for scholarships, you have to pay attention to the requirements for your essays. They have word counts usually. If they say no more than 500 words, don't use more than 500 words. And then you're gonna make sure that it's been edited and proofread time and time again, all right? You wanna read over it, you wanna have a teacher look over it, you want to make sure that your entire application is cohesive. That means that you're telling a story that makes sense all the way through. So if you're talking about things that you're passionate about, but then you have volunteer work that has nothing to do with that, they might be like, well, why are you volunteering there if this is what you said matters to you? Just try to make sure that the story you're telling, your family, your upbringing, the circumstances you've overcome, and you say this is what that has built in me and how I'm a better person. Make sure that the other parts of your application support that that is the truth, and make a cohesive story, an overall picture of your application of who you are, what makes you, what makes you unique, and what makes you great, and why these folks should give you a scholarship. You also want to make sure that you're addressing the correct people in the essay or in this whole application. You'd be surprised how many people actually end up putting the wrong institution's name at the top of something because they've written 10 scholarships that day. And you want to make sure that you don't misspell anything, specifically your email address, because sometimes you'll be notified that you won in an email. So if you sent them the wrong email or you misspelled it, you won't even get notification that you won. Make sure that you spell everything correct. So that completes our list of tips for how to actually win the scholarships that you took all the time to find. And if you have any tips on things that you've done or learned from your process of applying for scholarships, go ahead and put those down in the comments because we want everybody to benefit from the things that we've learned. If you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and hit the like button, smash that thumbs up, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel so that you can get even more content like this to help you or somebody that you know with their scholarship application process or just paying for college in general. Hit the bell icon to make sure that you don't miss our next video, and also feel free to share this video with people that you know that would benefit. If you're a parent and you've got a son or a daughter that's in this process or in high school, or if you know people in your neighborhood or at church that are in the process of trying to figure out how they're gonna pay for college, send this along to them if they can learn any new stuff that'll help them pay for college without debt. If you liked this video, then you'll definitely like these videos. And also go ahead and head to the channel, and there's a playlist on how to pay for college and scholarships and all that great stuff. You can binge everything that you need to know. Thank you so much for watching, and remember that you can pay for college without debt. We'll see you next time.